Hello, welcome to Rashi Parasha Study Parashat Hukat. Today we're going to take a look at an interesting midrash brought by Rashi, and we're going to try to dissect it both according to the pshat of the text, and we'll see it involves other text as well, and then we'll try to dissect it, the idea that's behind this midrash. If we take a look in Perikaf Aleph, Moshe Rabbeinu is going to fight Og. And Hashem tells him, "Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, al tira oto, don't fear him. Ki biyadecha natati oto ve'kol ha'amo ve'et artzo. I'm giving him into your hands. Ve'asita lo yodutehem kasher asita l'Sihon melech ha'emori asher yoshev b'heshbon." You'll do to him just like you did to Og. Just like you did to Sihon, you'll do to Og. Don't fear him, don't worry. So the simple reading of the text, we assume Moshe Rabbeinu was scared, maybe some form of military might of Og Melech HaBashan, and therefore Hashem has to tell him not to fear him. So Rashi says, listen, you have to understand, Al Tirauto. Why is Hashem telling him Al Tirauto? Not because he's scared of fighting him because he was strong. Because Og has a merit for doing something that he did for Avraham Avinu. So now we're positing Og, and the time of Moshe is the same Og as the time of Avraham Avinu. Shneimar v'yavo hapalit, the refugee came. And Bereshit Perek Yudalad Pasuk Yud Gimel, we'll see it later, when Abraham finds out that Lot was kidnapped by the four kings. Lot was sitting in Sidon. The four kings come and attack. He's kidnapped. It says, "Vayavo palit vayegid la'Avraham." And then Abraham went to war. So we say, who Og? Who is that palit? The palit is Og. That refugee is Og. Why? Shepalat min Rifaim. He's a refugee from the Rifaim, the nation of Rifaim. Shehuku Kedula Omer v'Havira v'Ashurut Karnaim. That Kedula Omer and his three kings with him, the four kings, that they killed all the Rifaim and Ashurut Karnaim. And how do we know that that's Og? Because it says, Kirak Og Melech HaBashan Nisham Yeta Rifaim and Pasuk and Devarim. So we'll slow down for a second, and we'll see the Pasukim and Devarim, the Pasukim and Bereshit, and see what Hazal are trying to do with it. So we have a Pasuk again. We have a Pasuk in Bemidbar and now Parasha, Moshe, don't be scared. Why don't be scared? Because Og is coming to attack you. You might think Og has a zechut from the time of Avraham Avinu. He doesn't. Don't worry. I'm going to give it to your hands. Now, firstly, the Pasuk in Devarim establishes that Og is from the tribe of the Rifaim. Kirak Og melech HaBashan nishan miyeta HaRifaim. And then we talk about his bed. It's an interesting Pasuk, but the Pasuk helps us know that Og is someone who remains, is a palit, is a refugee. He's the only one who remains from the Rifaim. So say Hazal, okay, let's analyze. When was Og, when were the Rifaim killed? And they said that brings us to Bereshit. Look, here's the war of Kedula Omer. And it starts off that Bakadula Omer Melachim Asher Yitu Beikut Rifaim Ba'asheru Karnaim. They're the first people they kill. They killed the Rifaim. Then they killed the Zuzim. Then they killed the Emim. Then they killed the Hori. Then they go to war against the kings of Sodom and Amorah. And they take Lot. And here's where it gets interesting. We read in Pasuk Yud Gimel Ve'yavo Palit Vayed Avraham Ha'ivri that the refugee comes and tells Abraham that Lot was taken captive. We assume that this refugee, from the simple reading of the text, is from this war against Sodom, the immediate war that this happened, not from the war beforehand, all the way in Pasuk. But Hazal tell us no. We want to read that the Palit is Og, who's a refugee from the war, all the way in Pasuk from the Rifaim. Why do I want to do that? Because I know Sefer Devarim, he's from the Rifaim. And therefore it makes sense he's in his Sha'ar, so therefore it makes sense he was a Palit. And therefore it makes sense why Moshe Rabbeinu was scared, because of this idea that he has the zechut of telling Abraham. But really, if we think about it for a second, we could say very simply, Hazal, the Palit is somebody random from Sodom. The fact that it tells us that Og is from Yetar Rifaim, and it talks about his bed, is to explain why Moshe Rabbeinu was scared. He was a great military person. Seemingly, there's a very simple explanation to all these Pesukim, why Hazal insisting on putting them all together. And the answer seems to be, and I think this is a very important concept when we come to study what Rashi is trying to teach us. Think of Moshe Rabbeinu for a second. Do we think Moshe Rabbeinu would be scared of people who are strong because they're big? This is Moshe Rabbeinu, who was willing to take Am Yisrael to Eretz Yisrael. He has complete and perfect faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's inconceivable. If Moshe Rabbeinu is scared, it has to be something that would scare him, something within his own realm, his own world. Chazal are trying to put themselves in Moshe Rabbeinu's shoes, and therefore they reach a conclusion: he must be scared of something spiritual. What spiritual zechut can Og possibly have? Therefore they say, now we can understand how to read the Pesukim in Bereshit. And in Devarim, you put them all together, this turns out the understanding of the Pasuk in Bemidbar. So what Chazal are doing, it's not always a simple reading of the Pasuk. They're very much aware of that. But what they're bothered by is how can we have Moshe Rabbeinu scared, attempting to answer based on their understanding of the person. And I think that's something that Rashi is teaching us. We always have to take in mind when we're coming to interpret the Torah. We have to interpret the Torah based on the biblical figures of the Torah, not based on our own world. We would be scared from it if Moshe Rabbeinu would not. And it's something we always have to keep in mind as we mefarish the stories. And Rashi really highlights and teaches us this tremendous lesson. Shabbat Shalom U'Vorach.